Pushkin. From BBC Studios and Pushkin Industries, this is Big Lives. I'm Emmanuel Dzotsi.
I'm Kai Wright.
And on this show, we take a single cultural icon, and what we do is we break down their life and their impact using the treasure trove that is the BBC's incredible archive. And today, I feel like you're going to enjoy this, Kai, particularly, which is we're going to talk about Tina Turner.
Absolutely one of probably the biggest icon in my mind that we're going to do. That's fabulous.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, okay, just to start here, when you think of Tina Turner in concert, what are you picturing? Like, what are you seeing?
In concert specifically, I see a woman in a short skirt with legs for days, big hair, jumping off a speaker or a table doing splits while just like energy.
Absolute energy and action personified on stage.
Absolutely.
Just like a whirlwind. You know, just something like this. Yes, you can imagine the hair, the leather jacket, this diva on stage just rocking it. Mm-hmm. And just to say, if you don't know, Tina Turner she's an iconic singer and performer. This artist that was just like a true rock and roll superstar. And when I say rock and roll, I mean like real rock
like
and
rock
roll.
And roll.
Totally. But I got to admit something here, Kai.
Oh, wait,
which
what?
is when I close my eyes and I conjure up Tina Turner, I don't actually see Tina Turner. I see Angela Bassett playing Tina Turner.
Yeah.
I see the actress Angela Bassett playing Tina Turner in a biopic about her life. Yes. What's Love Got to Do with It? And I have to say, that was the case for most of my childhood. It's like a thing I've had to unlearn in adulthood.
Totally understandable. I mean, Angela Bassett as Tina Turner is as iconic as Tina Turner herself.
And if you haven't seen that movie, just to say, it is your classic movie biopic. It's about Tina Turner's rise to fame, all the rest of it. But it's really a movie about her marriage to Ike Turner, who was her co-collaborator and partner for many years. And it's this fable about a woman surviving an abusive marriage and like coming back against all odds to be a superstar again. And I feel like that's kind of what I know her as more than the music, like as a survivor.
Yeah.
That's the story I think a lot of people know.
Yeah.
But looking through the BBC archive, what jumped out to me was just like how much we leave on the table when we talk about her as an artist, just like what she gave to the world musically. And I'm going to make a claim here. I actually think she's the most important figure in modern rock.
Wow. Okay. I'm ready for this. I couldn't make the argument, but I am eager to hear it.
Listen, I know people are going to come for me on this. I know it's a controversial statement, but I really think that to follow Tina's career is to understand, yes, how much she gave personally, but it's also to understand actually just how much Black women really powered rock through the ages.
Wow, okay.
And that's what I want to get into today.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to Big Lives. Today, we're talking about the one and the only Tina Turner. And just to get us situated and started, I'll take you back to the beginning. So, Tina Turner is not Tina Turner's real name.
Right. I forgot that.
Let's just start with that. She was born Anna Mae Bullock, actually.
Great name.
She was born in 1939 in Brownsville, Tennessee. And her family was a cotton-picking family. And by cotton-picking family, I'm talking she lived in a part of the country in a town where, like, Jim Crow was very much still a thing. People were still working in plantations. We're talking, like, sharecropping lifestyle here in the fields. And I'm actually just going to play you a clip from a 1992 interview she did on the BBC where she talks about this.
So when you were in the cotton fields, what were you dreaming of at that stage?
Getting out of the cotton fields. I didn't like the sun. I didn't like the work. It was very hard for a young girl when I didn't really know how to do it. You see, I was very young at the time. And the adults were sort of going along, and in the cotton fields, you have to keep up, you see, or else you get rows and rows and rows behind, and you need to be with everybody so that the energy of the conversation is being carried on. And once you get behind, you lose everything. You feel like and then you start to dream. And then you're standing on the hoe, and then your father's screaming, "Get off the hoe!" And, oh, good, fine. Oh, duck. I really didn't like it. But the dream was, I didn't know about Hollywood and all of that then. I just knew that I wanted to be a movie star.
It's so visual.
It's super visual. This I have to say about Tina. She is a really, really wonderful storyteller.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Kai, like, you grew up with Tina Turner. You knew of this about her, right? You knew that she'd come in the cornfields. I feel like the thing that I didn't know, though, the thing I didn't really understand that's sort of buried in that piece of tape is she's talking about you need to be with everybody to keep up with the adults so that the energy of the conversation is being carried on. And I want to talk about what she means by that.
I caught that
really
as
quickly.
well. Right.
So the conversation she's referring to is a musical one. Okay? We're talking like people working long, long hours in the hot sun, trying desperately to get as much cotton or as much whatever they're harvesting as possible, because none of these people own the land that they're actually working on. Yeah. They're renting it, and the idea is to make as much of like an effort to breaking even, to be able to pay your rent to keep living on that land. And so you have to work feverishly. And the way people got through that, this back-breaking labor, was to sing.
Yeah.
And so you're having these conversations, you're singing these songs as people are working from sun up to sundown. And from a very early age, she's like exposed to a thing that would become a big, big part of rock and roll and R&B and so much of our modern music, right? Which really is just call and response.
Which we have to say, right, like this is core Black culture going back to West Africa, is call and response, certainly while laboring.
And, you know, she has this tough childhood. She's in this working every day, but you can almost see this little girl growing up, training. You know, this is a woman who has learned to sing in like one of the hardest conditions you could think of to learn to sing. You think about what that does to a voice. You need to be heard. You need to hear other people. There's like a kind of strength in a voice that you have to have. A clarity to your voice that you have to have that she's developing as a kid kind of right from the beginning by virtue of like just the really rough conditions she's in.
Singing in a field. Wow.
Exactly. But eventually she decides she's got to get out of Tennessee. She doesn't really have that much family there because by the time she's 10 or 12, she's kind of on her own. Her mother like leaves their family when she's like really young. And so she's mostly raised by her grandmother. So pretty much as soon as she's able, she leaves Tennessee, and she eventually like bounces around from town to town. And one night she's hanging out with some friends at this sort of juke jointy blues bar kind of place as a teenager, and she hears this music. And this music is being played by a man, and that man is this guy who will become her future collaborator and husband, Ike Turner.
Ooh. This is a dark moment in the story.
It's a very dark moment in the story. I mean, it's weird because we're about to talk about someone who is a villain.
He's a
like
deep villain.
In the annals of history. But at the same time, I'm going to have to do a thing here, that I don't like, which is I'm going to have to acknowledge that he himself is also like an important person in rock and roll development.
Wildly
talented guy. And, you know, little anime, like, here's this man and is like, oh, this is amazing. I want to be a part of this. And so she keeps coming back and keeps trying to convince him and his band to let her sing with them. And eventually, she is successful. She actually manages to convince one of Ike's band members to let her sing a B.B. King song, like one of the nights that they're performing. And Ike hears that and famously is kind of like, wow, I didn't know all of this sound. Like this sound, the sound that could be heard from across the cotton fields. He didn't know that sound could come out of like this teeny tiny little woman.
Because we forget, right, she's teeny tiny.
Yeah, but that sort of moment gets her in with the band. And this band, they're called the Rhythm Kings at first. And she starts traveling and performing with them. And she's performing kind of as like a background singer, basically, slash sort of like a featured vocalist sometimes. But really, she's in the background of stuff. And all of that changes one day because the band is supposed to record like a single with this artist called like Art Lassiter. And I'm just going to play a clip of her talking about it in an interview she did actually with the BBC just a few years ago in 2023.
And so I said to Ike, like in the music, I know the song, I can sing it.
Yeah.
So he said, okay, just do the demo because he had paid for studio and there was no one to sing it. So when I did it and he did the song, recorded the song, he took it to New York to Juggy Mary Sue Records. And he said, well, why not keep it with the girl's voice? I like the female voice. And I thought, oh, I'm sure. Good idea. Then I'll become Ike. And I think that was how that came about.
So yeah, basically, kind of accidentally, she becomes the lead singer of this group.
Of Ike's group. What song was it?
So the song was A Fool in Love, which is like, it becomes a big hit.
Yeah.
But the important thing to note at this point is, you know how I said the band was called the Kings of Rhythm? Well, so when Ike goes to like the studio executives in New York and is basically like, hey, I have this demo, and he's this woman, and they're like, oh, she's great. You should make her like releasing into your band. Ike does that, but like, he makes a couple of choices here that I think say volumes about what this creative relationship between Ike and Anna Mae is going to be. And I'm just going to play you a clip of her talking about it, again from that same BBC interview.
Ike couldn't sing. He could do it with the music, maybe songwriting, but to try to perform, he couldn't.
Yeah. You know, so he created
He
created
yes,
Tina
yes,
Turner.
Yes.
Yeah. So you were like his muse.
I was his muse.
Yeah.
And that was when he went to New York to get the record deal, and he came back and he says, here's the record. I said, who is Ike or Tina? He says, you're Tina. And I didn't know.
And you're Anna Mae at the time.
I'm Anna Mae, little anything but Tina.
Yeah.
That was really foreign.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love how blunt she is. I couldn't sing. He can't sing.
But like, just to say plainly what has happened here is Ike has gone and he's realized, well, I don't want this to be like the Anna Mae show. And so what he does is he makes the name of the group the Ike and Tina Turner, which Tina is not Anna Mae's name. At this point, they are not married.
So she's also not a Turner. That's what I was going to say. Wait.
She's also not even a Turner. He just gives her this name, Tina. He's like, that is going to be your show name. This is the name of our group. This is your show name. And he does this other thing that I didn't really know about until I researched this, which is that he trademarks that name of the group.
Yeah.
And Tina Turner individually. So basically, Ike owns the name Tina Turner.
Yeah.
Even though it's her show name.
Which is his first act of abuse.
100%. Because what that does essentially is it makes it impossible for her to break off and use her stage name for anything else without him. And also it gives him a huge amount of power because let's say Anna Mae decides to like leave him and quit the band or do anything. He can just replace her, in theory, with another woman.
Call her Tina Turner. Yeah. Are they sleeping together yet at this point? Like, do they have a...
So it's interesting because the timeline around this is a little murky, but they start out at first not romantically in this group. She actually initially dates like one of his band members, has a kid with one of his band members.
Oh.
Which, you know, if the legends are true, Ike is jealous of.
And not difficult to imagine what we know about Ike Turner.
That leads to that band member leaving that group. Then Tina does start a romantic relationship with Ike.
Yeah.
But, like, again, they're not married. They're in this very sort of weird mix of a relationship, which is Ike is her boss. She is his employee. Nominally, like to the public, they're a partnership or a musical duo, but he's also like her lover.
Yeah.
He has a lot of power over her.
It is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. And yet, she kind of settles into this role as sort of this instrument of Ike's, right?
I decided what songs was to be sung on stage, but I did the choreography with the dancers.
Yeah.
I organized the dresses for the dancers and myself. That I had no say other than that. Ike was trying to get me then to write songs, which was very uncomfortable for me because that takes another training to write songs, and so it stayed like that for quite a while. I did my best with the clothes and with the dancing, but then that gets a little bit old. And then he went on to trying to get me to write the songs and all, and it just went from one thing to the next.
So she's an instrument of Ike, but she is kind of being given like a lot of different responsibilities.
Because she's talented.
She's super talented. Basically, pretty quickly, she is the source in this meal that is like Ike and Tina Turner.
And of course he wants her to write songs. He's just trying to wring everything out of her he can, is what I hear.
Trying to use every little drop of like this woman's talent to his benefit. I just want to talk a little bit about what the Ike and Tina Turner show was, like what their actual stage show was. Because at this time, they put out obviously that record, Fall in Love, but really what they're doing at this time is touring. And they're touring like in a very specific way, which is they're doing so like in front of mostly at this time like black audiences on the Chitlin circuit. And that is a very particular type of thing. And just to situate us in time, we're talking now about like where R&B is you have artists sort of like Ray Charles that are like also performing on this circuit. And all the artists on this circuit who are black and making this new sort of rock and roll sound, they have taken the call and response that existed in the cotton fields, that existed sort of in the juke joints, and now they've made that into like these very choreographed shows that often involve one lead singer and like a bunch of background singers sort of repeating what they're doing. And what a lot of that is kind of also coming from church traditions, right?
Yeah.
You look at sort of like a preacher giving a fiery sermon and a choir in the background. And they just kind of take that model and move it to the stage, except to make it way raunchier. So you have Ray Charles preaching and his background singers, who were known as the Raylettes, as sort of that faux gospel choir. And they're doing the call and response that way. What Ike and Tina do is a kind of twist on that, which I find really interesting, which is it's almost like Ike is like this silent preacher. In every sort of image you see of them performing, you see like Ike, this sort of like tall, very quiet, serious-looking guy, barely smiling most of the time, most of the time kind of scowling, sort of off in the corner. But really, the person who is the preacher in this situation is Tina.
Is the woman.
And she's doing so with her own particular flair. There's a formula that they seem to come up with, which is most present in songs like Proud Mary, example. The way these songs start is that they start kind of a little slow, more you're sort of used to, the sort of more almost doo-wopping or soulful, almost sounds kind of like churchy in a way, right? This slow and steady sort of thing. And then at a moment in these songs, there's like a real explosion, like bam, and Tina Turner and the background singers that became known as the Ikeettes, they start basically like dancing like mini tornadoes.
Yeah. I mean, this is explicitly church. I mean, that is exactly how a church service goes. Certainly, any charismatic black church, that's exactly the run of ceremony. And by the explosion, everybody's in the aisles, particularly the women, catching the Holy Ghost,
Exactly. So she does that. And in the course of doing that, she actually starts inventing dance moves. And I just want to play a little bit of her talking about that. This is from a 1992 interview with a journalist called Gloria Hunniford. I'm just going to play that for you.
That famous dance, that strut. Was that something that you developed, or did that just come?
Which strut? Yeah, we do have our styles, and we don't really know what it is we're doing sometimes, I think, on stage. Yeah, that's a reliable one. It can sort of work with a ballad or an up-tempo song or whatever. It's just a comfortable step to sort of get you started, you know.
And the dance move that she's talking about there becomes known as the pony. Do you know what the pony is, Kai?
I only know it thinking about Tina doing it, honestly.
It's almost like if you took like a Running Man shuffle and a moonwalk, but then also a little bit of like twerk action, and you put them all together on stage.
Moonwalk with a twerk. I mean, I can't top that description.
But either way, it was so distinctive.
It's almost like you're riding a pony, you know?
Yes, literally it looks like you're riding a pony while staying in place or moving or shuffling across. It really is quite something. And mind you, I should just add, she's doing all of this in like high heel, like stilettos, the thinnest. She is the dancing, singing phenom.
Wow.
Of that era. And her reach isn't even just limited to other black artists, because at this time, a very big thing happens for her and Ike, which is they go on tour in 1966 with the Rolling Stones. There has just been, of course, an explosion in the last couple of years preceding that of artists like the Beatles, right? Mm-hmm. Rolling Stones, who have become a sensation kind of worldwide, especially in the UK and in America. And I just want to play for you this little clip where she's talking about what it was like touring with them, and in particular, the interaction she was having with, you know, this little front man of the Rolling Stones. Called Mick Jagger.
I didn't really know Mick, but there was this guy that always stood in the wing. And then I found out that it was Mick. And he wasn't dancing on stage, and occasionally I'd go out and watch them, and he'd just sort of do the tambourine on stage, you know. And then when he came here and requested that we do the tour here Mick is flying across the stage with all these things, you know. And I said, hey, you know, he's dancing. I never thought that what he was doing was learning to dance. He always said to us, I like to watch girls dance. We were in the dressing rooms together, really having a ball and just kidding around. And so Mick says to me, teach me how to do the popcorn. That's what I said to him. So that's what you were doing in the wings all this time, is learning some of the dances that we do. But I've been referred to as the female Mick Jagger, where it should be just the opposite.
So just to say, because you told that in a bit of a convoluted way, she's on tour with Mick Jagger, and Mick Jagger, who previously didn't really dance that much on stage in the way that we now know him to dance, right? Took a look at what Tina was doing on stage and was like, oh, that.
And I love that she caught him. She's like, oh, you know, that's where you hear a little anime, you know? She's like, oh, I see that you've been watching and now you're doing it. Good for you.
Exactly.
Very generous of her to be like, good for you.
And it's funny because to this day, Mick Jagger denies that he lifted those dance moves.
What? You're kidding.
He does.
How is he going to deny that? He literally looks like Tina Turner doing it.
He does. And it's funny because there have been multiple times over the years when Tina Turner was still with us where she would be like, she would talk about this story and she would always comment and be like, well, he denies this, but let me just show you. And when you watch the two side by side, you're like, oh, yeah, there is something particularly similar about what they're doing on stage. And I feel like it makes total sense that what he would be attracted to was the energy given by a black band that came of age themselves performing in sort of like these sort of seedier black establishments, right? On the Chitlin circuit, really making it work. There's a pure sex to what Tina Turner is doing on stage.
Absolutely.
You know, she's in stilettos, she's in these short skirts. Like, you've got Ike Turner standing off to the side, who is basically kind of operating like a pimp in terms of how much he owns her.
I'm glad we could just say that out loud. Like, when you were describing him earlier, standing on the side, like, that's what I kept thinking, like a pimp.
100%. And I think there is a femininity to what Mick Jagger does as well, and an androgynous to it that you're like, oh, that makes total sense that he would have been influenced by her. But what's interesting to me, I feel like we all know that story, right? Of white artist taking something from a black artist.
Specifically the Stones.
Yes. But what I found interesting going through the archive about Tina is she also takes things from big. And she takes things, and Ike and Tina in this period, they take things from white artists because they notice, right, white artists are doing us and having success doing us. Maybe we should take a little bit of what these white guys are doing and make it kind of better. And it's interesting because you look at a lot of their hits in this period of time, and like a lot of them are actually covers. You know what I mean?
I didn't realize
so like
that.
their most famous song, maybe Proud Mary, that is not an Ike and Tina song.
This is brand new information to me. I have to admit, I just thought that was an Ike and Tina song.
You know who originally sang that song? A rock band called Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Shut up. I thought it was the other way around.
No,
I thought Creedence
no.
Clearwater Revival stole the song from Ike and Tina Turner, or covered
would
Ike and
think.
Tina Turner.
These guys are flipping it, and she's making these songs her own.
I had no idea.
So there's also like an interesting cultural exchange happening where she's showing the boys how to do it in more ways than one, let's just say. So all of this energy attracts the interest of one particular guy who, I should just say, right from the jump, is not necessarily a better human than Ike Turner. I'm talking about Phil Spector, who was like a big producer at this time, super controversial, and controversial feels weak. I mean, this is a guy who would later go to prison for murder. We're laughing, but it's grisly.
But
it's really grisly.
Phil Spector is grisly shit.
And in terms of this period of music, you know, one in which white artists are stealing stuff from black artists is definitely guilty of a lot of that.
Like, he's kind of the brainchild of that. Like, if you wanted a poster child of the white guy that's figured out how to steal black music, Phil Spector is kind of it,
Totally.
right?
But he also kind of patents a sound in a way. And it's a particular kind of sound that is known as like this wall of sound. How would you describe what that music is?
I guess I know the term, and I actually never really knew technically what it's supposed to mean, but it's, just, I think it's quite, the term itself is visual. Like, you're just overwhelmed with like a big sound, like think subwoofers coming at you,
Right. It's weird. It's like, when we think about a lot of instrumental music, we think about like, oh, right, I like the bass in this song, or I like the trumpet in this, like all these different sorts of moments, right? We're still in an era coming out of like really close to jazz music and blues music where it really is about like the individual instruments. You can hear kind of all of them very clearly. That is not what the wall of sound is. The wall of sound is this idea where you're just hearing these big chords pushed to you all at once in a kind of echoey way, but it sounds kind of mushy. And so what you need, kind of, if you're thinking about this as sort of like almost like building blocks of sound, like this pyramid, where you have like your big low-sounding instruments, like on the bottom, right? What you need for the very top of that sound is you need something really clear. A very clear, distinctive voice that's going to be able to really convey some kind of emotion and kind of rise above everything else that's happening underneath. And throughout the 60s, Phil Spector decides, you know what? You know who can do this? Black women can do this for me. And, he works with some really famous ones. But the woman he really wants to work with is Tina Turner.
Yeah. A woman who sang in the cotton fields and could break her voice out. Yep.
But obviously, this powerful man who wants to pimp out Tina Turner has to negotiate with the other powerful man who is currently trying to pimp Tina Turner. And so what he does eventually is he more or less bribes Ike to stay, not only to like be able to rehearse with Tina Turner and to produce a song, but also to just stay away from the recording.
Just get out. Because he's
get out.
Too disruptive.
Because he is so controlling of her at this point. And what they end up cooking up together in the studio is this little song called River Deep, Mountain High. I'm just going to play a little bit of it for you. And you hear it in that.
Great example.
It's like a cacophony of sound, and she's being required to sing over the top of it. And that track does not actually do that well in the US, but it does do really, really well in the UK.
Huh.
It's like a smash hit in the UK. But unfortunately for Tina, she's not really able to take full advantage of that moment because in the background of all of this is Ike.
Right.
As her star is taking off, like slightly before, I think, the like tour she does with the Rolling Stones, Ike is like, you know what? Let me put a ring on this for real. And I'm just going to play a clip of Tina talking about just how that came about in their wedding night. It's from the interview that she did a couple of years ago with the BBC.
And just tell me about the wedding night, because it's unconventional.
Very. The story is that when Ike was very young in Mississippi, he had married a girl, and he never divorced her. So when Rivers Deep Mountains High became a hit, Ike was afraid that she would come for money. So he asked me to marry me so that he wouldn't have to give her money. Paid her off, and then that was it. And the song became huge, and then I became married.
And then what happened on the wedding night?
It was really, yeah, that was really bad. I when he asked, "Do you want to marry me?" I remember when I answered, "Yeah." You don't ask, you're not even asked. You don't ask someone to marry you in that way. But of course, it was a control. He was a control freak, so I got dressed. I knew I didn't want to marry. I just didn't. And then we went to Tijuana, dusty roads. It was really bad then. And we went into this area. I'm sure Ike found it. It was a lot of dirt. It wasn't clean. And I was raised a different way from how Ike was. Ike was, I have to say, I think that he was, you might have another word, Ike was crooked from day one to day two to the end of one day. Everything he did was conniving, and I was different. I thought the wedding, I was fairy tale-ish. I thought, someone would ask you to marry and you'd wear the white dress, and this was my wedding. A piece of paper pushed across and we signed, and after that we went to a brothel and watched sex. It was really, that's even hard to really think about. So as far as I was concerned, nothing had changed. I was still with Ike. I wasn't married. As far as I was, my thinking, I was the same what I was to him, which was, he knew already that I no longer cared about him and was paranoid about me leaving. He had already sensed that I was thinking of leaving. So that was the beginning of the end, the beginning of that violence and how evil he was. It was every day, every moment.
That's like really hard to listen to.
It is. And I think, if we haven't said this clearly, we're not just talking about a man who was manipulative. He was physically abusive, like intensely physically abusive to her throughout all this time, right?
Yeah, physically, emotionally, like kind of everything. Tina is, of course, going to try and get out of this marriage, and it's going to set her on a path that is really going to redefine her in ways, some ways good, but also some ways bad that I think really overshadow her music, which we're going to talk about when we come back from the break. Welcome back to the show. So today we're talking about Tina Turner, and where we left off, honestly, like she's had this massive success.
Yeah.
And stars starting to rise, but reality is she is stuck in this horribly abusive marriage with Ike Turner.
Yeah.
And this is where, we're now like in the 70s, late 70s, and things are kind of rock bottom. Like this man is so destructive to this woman's life. I can't really overstate that. And to the point where it gets dark enough for her that, she actively tries to kill herself.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah.
She survives that. And where she turns to comfort in this time is actually like in her spirituality. And that is actually in Buddhism. She gets introduced to Buddhism and starts repeating like these mantras sort of as a way to ground herself and to feel just connected to this world, because that's how bad things have gotten for her. And over time, she does a remarkable thing, which is she leaves Ike.
Right.
And there, is a particular story of this wherein she is supposed to perform at the Academy Awards, and Ike beats her so badly that in a moment of just pure desperation survival, to get away from him, Tina crosses basically the highway to get to another hotel where she asks the hotel manager, even though she doesn't really have a cent to her name that is hers, just to put her up, which he does. And that is the beginning, basically, of her separating herself from Ike.
It's so dramatic.
It's
so dramatic.
And it's also just like, I don't know, I grew up, and I'm sure you grew up, really like surrounded by black women in my family.
Yep.
And really early on in my understanding of how the world worked, I remember my mum telling me that story.
Yep.
Just about how domestic abuse works. Like the example that was given to me was Ike and Tina Turner, what he did to her.
I mean, it's funny when you said when you close your eyes and picture Tina Turner, you picture Angela Bassett from the movie. I actually picture my aunt and grandmother. Because they are, in my mind, so associated with Tina Turner and how much this story inspired them. Not because they had abuse in their lives, but just like how her ability to leave at that moment was so foundationally inspiring to so many black women.
Yeah. And the details of what she does next are inspiring. One of the big things that she does in a subsequent divorce from Ike is she deliberately does not take a cent of his money.
Which makes her penniless.
Yeah. What she does opt to keep, though, is her name.
Yes, Tina.
That name, the stage name that Ike owns, so that she can continue her career. And she gets it. The judge awards her her name. And she tries to start making a career without him as a solo artist, which, on the face of it, she was always kind of a solo artist when you think about it. Like, it's like when you look at shows before Ike and you look at shows after Ike, the difference is there's not a creepy asshole on stage with her.
Fucking pimp glowering in the corner, and that's it.
Exactly.
It's so inspiring not to just like, I see, and this is exactly what you're talking about, is like this overshadows everything else in her career, but it is really hard to move on from like this choice of somebody who is a superstar to say, I'm going to go penniless. All I need is the ability to show my talent. Give me the ability to show my talent on my own, and I know I'm going to be all right. And like being able to come up with that after decades of abuse, it does make your heart explode to think about.
Yeah. But she makes a go of it. She's publicly splits from Ike. This is like 1978. People know they've divorced. A lot of people know bad stuff has gone down. But really, there's not that much people know. But what people do know is there was this duo, and obviously a bunch of shit went down. And so as she tries to keep going and kind of forge her own career as a solo artist, over the period of like the next basically like 5 to 8 years, that's all anybody wants to ask, because they're just like, well, so what happened there?
Yeah.
And people keep bringing up Ike. So I'm just going to play some of this tape, just some examples. This is a clip from 1978, just like basically the year she gets divorced. And, I just want to say all of these clips, I feel like there's something in them that, as someone who grew up with a mum who would later get divorced, and like sort of was trying to desperately keep up appearances and try to, keep life moving, there's a tone in it that like I really hear that really, it makes me angry still. Which I'm just going to play this for you.
One hesitates to bring this up because it no doubt is a painful thing, but I feel that we really want to know just what happened with you and I. You're obviously not married anymore, but doesn't it make a lot of problems for you in your professional life?
None at all. None from the very beginning.
None at all.
I grew up in a pretty majority white place in Toledo, Ohio. And there are so many stereotypes, right, about like the broken black family. And, you know, the single I'm trying to make it. And I just remember my mom working overtime to not give people that.
Right.
Give them the satisfaction of putting us in that box.
You hear, when you hear Tina go, not at all, that you're hearing your mom.
That's what I hear. And then I think on the flip side, then sort of people being like, oh, well, yeah, like, that was a while ago, right? Like, just also being dismissive of it at the same time. I'm just going to play this clip for you.
You've been on the road now for 19 years.
Yes.
And you had a fairly rocky time at the end of your marriage to Ike Turner. Are we over that now?
Yes.
Are we over that now? It's such a...
Are the details of the abuse out at this point? Like,
some of the details are out, but not all of them, because Tina is navigating sort of how she's going to do this, right? She doesn't want to be totally defined by, like, the abuse that's occurred and what she survived, right? On the other hand, it's all anybody wants to talk about. People want to know more. In part, I think, possibly because it's an inspiring story, but also because, I don't know, they kind of want to feast on what happened there.
Because we're all emotional vampires.
Totally. And as she tries to, like, make a career, like, this kind of keeps coming up. So even people and interviewers who are friendly to her. So, like, this next clip I'm going to play you is from a long-running television show on the BBC called Wogan.
So how is the old career going? Pretty good?
Fantastic.
Yeah?
It is.
And what about your life? You seem happy.
I'm pleased. I'm happy a lot of the times. It's not every day.
Yeah.
It's this awkward kind of conversation where it's almost like you're talking to, like, your one friend who's going through a rough time and has been going through a rough time for a lot, seemingly forever.
Yeah. And you want them to be all right. You're like, you're great, right?
Yeah.
You're good now, right? You're a survivor, right? Yeah.
And by now we've reached, like, early 80s. Like, Tina is in emotionally a much better place. Career-wise, though, the Ike and Tina act that she's now made, the Tina Turner act, is not really in the mainstream. It's an act of yesteryear.
Yes.
And so she's doing star of yesteryear things. Right? She is performing some concerts or whatever, but they're sort of almost like in review stuff. Right? Like, music has changed so much. Rock and roll, Proud Mary, that's in the rear view. Like, she's performing in small venues, sometimes even like hotel ballrooms, like conferences, stuff like that. Right?
Which is just so mind-blowing. Like, I just have to say, like, to me, to think of Tina Turner at that point being processed as a has-been,
yes,
given what would come, is mind-blowing to me.
And they're not wrong to think that, because I think that's one of the things that I find is a bit of a tragedy of a lot of stars in her sort of era, especially stars that were pioneers of rock and roll in that sort of way. Like, rock as a container for black people.
Yeah, that's really the case. I mean, but also, like, it's a young person's thing.
It is.
To be a pop star, you know, like, of any race. You are discarded pretty quickly unless you're something super special.
And it takes something super special to get Tina back in the limelight. She goes back to one of the places where, even at the very beginning, she has success, right? She goes back to the UK. And what she finds in the UK are actually a bunch of producers who grew up listening to her music who want to work with her.
Right.
And so she starts working with a couple of producers who eventually put in front of her a song. It's a little song called What's Love Got to Do With It?
Just this, you know, a little ditty.
But that is how she viewed it.
Yeah.
The first time she heard the demos for this song, she hated them. She hated it.
Well, it is so different than anything she was doing before.
It's so different. So the legend goes, and I don't know how accurate this quote is, but, so the legend goes, she heard one of the song's key lyrics about, like, love being a second-hand emotion, and was like, this is a second-hand, second-rate song.
What, Tina? Girl.
So the legend goes, I don't know how true that is, but we just need to know she hated.
She hated the song somehow.
But she was wrong about that song.
She was deeply wrong.
She releases that song together with, like, an album called Private Dancer.
Great. It's great.
In 1984, that is, like, a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece. I feel like in this show, I'm going to keep talking about my favorite album every time you bring something up. But now I'm like, Private Dancer might be one of my favorite albums.
So that album basically starts off what is at the time, the way people talk about it, you would think it's like the wildest, most improbable comeback of all time.
Yeah.
Like, it is just like, people are like, Tina Turner, she's still around? She's still a person? Like, that's the vibe. And the thing is, of course, the last time people heard about Tina Turner was when she broke up with Ike.
Right.
And so, even though she had just put out this masterpiece of an album, people want to hear a little bit more about what happened. And so she makes a decision. 1986, just a couple years after that album's come out, she decides to come out with a book about her life, an autobiography called I, Tina. And the point of that book is just to put the story straight about her and Ike once and for all. Let me just get it out there, let the people have what they want, and then we can all move on. Because I've moved on. I'm in a different part of my life and my career now. But that is not what happens.
No.
If anything, the book just creates more headlines and more interest. And I'm just going to play this clip for you. It's from an interview that she does actually with an Italian journalist in 1986, the year the book comes out.
In my opinion, you did a mistake. You wrote a book because everyone asked you about your husband. And now you wrote a book, everyone asks you about your husband. This is a big mistake.
Oh, big mistake. I said, 10 years now I've been divorced. You realize? 10 years. It's a long time, I think. And they're still asking me about this man that I divorced years ago, that I went through hell and got rid of. And they still want to talk about this man. It's almost like me living my life constantly talking about the past. So I said, okay, good. I'll write the book. And that will clear it. Forget it. I mean, it's even more now.
I have to say, like, I feel for her, but don't write such a good book. like, it does. I mean, that book became required reading for a certain kind of woman. I mean, I remember that book on the bookshelf of every adult Black woman I know. But I hear it's hard. I hear her, but it is really an important piece of literature, actually.
It is. It's an important piece of literature, and her story is important, which might be why she agrees to what happens next. Because even though she's mad about the reaction to the book and how it hasn't put to bed a bunch of stuff, she decides to allow people to make it into a movie.
Also an iconic film.
Also an iconic film. And I'm just going to play an interview. She goes back on Terry Wogan's show in 1989. And this is just him asking her about this little upcoming movie that she's working on.
Now, your life story is being filmed, and it's called I, Tina.
Yes.
Are you going to play the lead role in that? Are you going to play yourself?
I played that part already. You didn't get that, did you? No, I don't plan to participate in the movie. I have some involvement in the production, but I won't play the part again.
Why?
It's
too painful?
No, it's not painful. It's been 13 years. I know it don't really seem like 13 years, but I don't want to play the part. I want to play something more exciting.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you had a fairly exciting and momentous life and career.
Well, not that type of excitement, anyway.
No.
I want to be on the end with the stick this time.
Ooh. Yeah, you had a tough time, didn't you?
Yeah.
But will you go to see the movie? I mean, has the movie got your support? Do you mind?
I'm involved with the production,
Yeah.
but I will have to actually coach the actresses playing the part of Tina. And
Who's going to play you? Who can play you?
That's what I'm wondering.
I got an idea.
Exactly, which of course brings us to where we started, which is just Angela Bassett.
Angela Bassett can play you to great effect.
Exactly. One of our greatest living actors, Angela Bassett, can totally do it. And that is what she does. And that's the reason why I have the image of Tina Turner that I do.
Sure.
Right?
It's just
right?
culturally, it's dynamite. It's cultural dynamite. Angela Bassett playing Tina Turner.
So that's how we end up with Angela Bassett. And that image that I have, right? And that so many people have. And listen, even with that, even understanding why that has come to be, I still feel this thing of just like, but it comes at a cost, which is we are not talking about enough just how much of an impact this woman had on music and on rock music specifically.
Yeah.
And, I've already told you about teaching Mick Jagger how to dance, for example. We've talked about her collaboration with Phil Spector. But a thing that I feel like is really important that those sort of examples speak to is you think about where music was in the 1960s, particularly the late 1960s. You had this wave of British artists, the Beatles, you had the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, all these different bands who had come over to the US and had like great success by making a type of music that is kind of similar to a lot of the original rock and roll that existed, but in their particular way, right? And that music, just to say, accompanies a particular kind of period in the 1960s, right? 1964, 65, there's social turmoil for sure, but it's not quite as dark and apocalyptic as the late 60s would feel.
Right.
We're talking all the political assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr., Robert F. Kennedy. We're talking Vietnam. Like, people really thought it was the end times. It's a dark period. And people wanted music that spoke to that felt a little more real. And, to me, it's no coincidence in a way, even when you put aside a bunch of other like external forces, that the Beatles break up in around this time. In a way, when the Beatles break up, you could say it's sort of the beginning of the end of the first big like sort of British invasion, as they call it, right? But the bands that are still around, like the Rolling Stones, who, learned their moves from Tina, they still got to figure out a way to keep going. And what you see after this is a lot of individual white rock musicians trying to find a way to make their music feel a little more current, a little more urgent, mean something, speak to the times in some way. And the way they do that is basically by casting for Tina Turner kind of sound-alikes to be in their songs.
Wow. Give me an example.
As I said before, she taught Mick Jagger how to dance. But also you can hear her influence in their music because eventually they too start working with like black women. In fact, it is a feature of a song called Gimme Shelter, which is like one of their biggest hits, right? It came out in like the late 60s. And a big part of Gimme Shelter is that it contains this really amazing vocal solo that reoccurs throughout the song of this woman singing like rape, murder, it's just a shout away.
Right.
And she's singing it with such ferocity. And this woman, I should say, her name is Mary Clayton. And Mary Clayton is a fantastic artist in her own right. Absolutely unreal. And the story of how she recorded that song is insane. They dragged her out of bed in the middle of the night. And it sounds like they asked her to do her best Tina Turner impression. And they perform that song on tour still to this day. And the way they perform that song is they normally will have like a black background singer suddenly come to the front and sort of be a featured vocalist with them. And when you watch those performances, those black women, they look like they're doing a Tina Turner impression.
So what you're arguing is that like that thing that became like a trope of white rock arguably still is of like brassy black women singing back up to like a white rocker to bring a little soul to it. That emerged because they were trying to capture Tina Turner's sound in their music.
100%. Because that's what we think about when we think of black women in rock.
Because they all heard Tina. They were like, we have to have something like that in our act. Wow.
And it's not just the Stones. Like everybody from the Stones to Joe Cocker to David Bowie is doing this basically through the 70s.
Yeah.
Just like trying to find a way to add a little bit of sauce. And when they think about the ingredients that make up that sauce, they go to Tina.
I mean, it's a cliche at this point to have it. I mean, even like, this is a bit of a nerdy version of it. But like even when you're making comedies and stuff, like in movies, when you want to like have the stand-in Little Shop of Horrors and the doo-wop ladies who are the sort of chorus throughout that. The idea of like black women as the chorus to some white thing.
Right.
That is because of the efforts to copy Tina Turner. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's all there. So even though you're like, right, there are these large swaths of like the 70s and 80s where you're not really seeing her music and we don't think about it, her influence is all around us in rock music in like a really tangible way. Okay. So Kai, who have you got for me next time?
A true titan. Talk about a big life. And I think you'll recognize this right off.
Okay.
It's because one has not ended the Civil War. We've been free for 100 years. The Civil War ended in 1865. And the Civil War has not really ended yet.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. So, one of the people who put America's psyche on the couch over and over and over again. So thinking about our divide from the Civil War, here's the next one.
It comes as a great shock around the age of 5 or 6 or 7 to discover that the flag to which you have pledged allegiance, along with everybody else, has not pledged allegiance to you.
I'm already excited for this because what you just played is it's part of a longer section of one of the more, I think, impactful things I have ever heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. All right, well, one more.
If I'm a novelist with a message, it's only one. And probably I suspect that every novelist has just one message. And that would be the effort that one has got to make, according to me. The very dangerous effort one has got to make. To deal with other people as though they were simply human beings.
I'm so excited, but also, how are you going to boil down this person?
Right.
Just to one episode.
I know. Well, it turns out that in the BBC archives is one of the most important public moments in this man's life and in this man's public conversation about what it means to be a Black person on this planet. And so we are going to dig into that specific moment.
Okay. We'll get into it next week. Big Lives is a production of BBC Studios and Pushkin Industries. It's hosted by me, Emmanuel Dzotsi, and Kai Wright. Our team over at BBC Studios includes producer Emma Reverill, archive producer Samira Chowdhury, sound design by Melvin Rickaby, and our executive producer is James Robinson. Our production coordinator is Galen Davis Connolly, our apprentice is Amy Woods, and our production manager is Mabel Finnegan Wright. The team over at Pushkin Industries includes executive producer Costanza Gallardo, producer Daphne Chen, our legal advisor is Jake Flanagan, and our marketing team includes Morgan Ratner and Jordan McMillan.